Hello, welcome to the Horti-Culturalists. I'm Matthew Lucas, still locked down in Melbourne, but the end is nigh.
And I'm Stephen Ryan, and we post a video every week, so don't forget to subscribe and press the alert button.
Oh, Stephen, the garden is looking sensational, all those colours. I am very envious, excuse the parrots, that I can't be there. So, what are you going to show us this week?
Now, Matthew, this week we're going to talk about a group of plants that can be somewhat contentious, and that's plants that self-seed themselves around the garden. Those of us with a slightly romantic bent might see those plants as softening the edges of gardens, coming up where they want to, filling gaps and being fantastic in the garden. Other gardeners, of course, like to keep complete control over their garden and see anything that self-seeds itself as potentially just another weed. I have to say I'd rather manage a plant than have to mollycoddle one. So for me, there are several self-seeders that I use regularly, and we'll have a look at some of those today.
Well, if William Shatner can finally make it into space, we can boldly go where no gardener dares to go, which is the world of the self-seeder. But two things. Firstly, Stephen, you're looking very smart. That's a whole sort of Ralph Lauren look going on there. Second, the garden is looking sensational. Show us more.
The first plant I want to talk about is a plant well known in gardening circles by the common name of honesty. And it is a plant that's botanically known as Lunaria annua, which in itself is not terribly honest because the plant is actually a biennial. It will grow the first year, flower the second year, and then die. The papery seed pods that form after the flowers give it the plant's name because they're see-through and white and therefore seem to suggest the moon. So Lunaria means moon. And of course annua means annual, but it isn't. This particular form is the one that I keep in my garden. The wild form has magenta flowers and green leaves. Pretty enough plant in its own right. But this white variegated leafed one I think takes this plant to a new level. The variegated foliage is attractive right through until flowering and after. The white flowers blend beautifully with the foliage. And I guess the only thing I'd say about this plant that one needs to be a bit careful of, if you get greedy and you want some mauve-flowered ones, and there's also a mauve-flowered variegated leafed one, you have to keep your different forms well separated because if they cross-pollinate, in the end you'll end up with just the wild form. Comes from Europe, grows in virtually any climate other than the tropics, and will get up to around about 1 metre to 1.5 metres tall if it's growing well. And really all it needs is semi-shade to full sun and a really nice, moist, rich soil to grow it up as a big plant. And of course the seed heads are beautiful for floral artwork when they go dry.
Oh, honesty. I've never seen that since, my childhood. My grandmother had that in her garden. How beautiful. I do see though, Stephen, you have jumped on the variegation bandwagon. You trendy beast, you. Okay, what's next?
This is a favourite self-seeding annual in my garden and always creates huge comment when people see it. It's a plant known as Cerinthe major. It's a European wildflower, it's an annual, and its botanical name comes from the Greek for wax because it was once thought that bees made wax from the flowers of Cerinthe. It's Cerinthe major, which means large or bigger, and of course that's comparative, so it's one of the larger species in the genus. And I just love the plant. It has beautiful grey foliage with white marbling in it, which is really attractive. And then you get these fabulous sort of bruised purple flowers with these iridescent bluish coloured bracts around them. It's a fabulous plant, and it always comes up every year and flowers superbly for me. Because it's in the borage family, I rather think it's probably a damn good compost activator as well. So when the plant dies down, I pull out the corpses, throw them into the compost bin, and it makes fabulous compost to go back into the garden. So that's Cerinthe major, and I think it is a wonderful self-seeding annual.
Your Cerinthe major looks amazing. Now, I actually grew that last year in pots and it just didn't do very well. I think, I don't know, maybe it wasn't getting enough light. It was just very leggy. I don't think it's a great pot specimen, but yours look amazing in that cluster. Such interesting colour. And as it's part of the borage family, I imagine very popular with pollinators. Okay, what's next?
Now, Matthew, my next self-seeder is from the exotic island of Madeira. And this is Geranium palmatum. Geranium actually comes from the Greek word for crane's bill because the seeds after the flowers are finished look like a bird's long pointy bill. This plant can get up to around about 1 metre tall if it's growing well. Again, it grows very well in semi-shade through to full sun in a reasonably moisture retentive soil. It can self-seed like there's no tomorrow, so it does need a fairly strong hand to keep it in order, but it's very easy to pull out. And I would grow this plant even if it didn't flower because its foliage is so attractive in my garden.
Ah, Madeira. Now there is a name to conjure exotic thoughts of wonderful islands. I've always been fascinated by Madeira. How interesting it should come from there. But here's another question, nomenclaturally, and that is the eternal definition of pelargonium and geranium. Now, if I was there, we'd have to go through that in some length, but next time when we're in your garden and there is a geranium or a pelargonium in bloom, we might address that burning topic. Okay. What's next?
Now, the final plant I want to talk about, Matthew, is a really interesting one in the carrot family. It's botanically known as Smyrnium perfoliatum. Now, apparently Smyrnium comes from an ancient Greek word which means myrrh, and apparently that's to do with the smell of this plant. Perfoliatum means leaves that surround the stem, and that's certainly the case with a mature plant. Now, it has an interesting growth cycle. It's not strictly speaking a biennial. If there's such a thing, it's probably a triennial because it has a first year seedling that comes up with 2 small seed leaves and then dies back to a little tuber underneath. The second year it comes up and looks a bit like flat leaf parsley. And in the third year it comes up and has these fabulous bright greeny yellow bracts with the tiny little umbels of bright yellow flowers. Now, this plant comes from Europe. It is edible, so the leaves can be used, the stems can be used, the flowers can be used, the roots apparently can be used, and so can the seeds. So the seeds make a pepper substitute. The leaves have a slightly celery type flavour, so they can be used as a garnish. And apparently the little tuberous root systems can be used in soups and stews. So it is quite an edible plant, but I love it for its ornamentality in the garden. It seems to grow best where it's got a spot that's sort of got dappled sunlight, and it goes fantastically with lots of other spring flowering plants. Dare I mention forget-me-nots look fabulous with it, bluebells look fabulous with it, and there's a whole range of plants I've used here, including Russian comfrey and, of course, the gold-leaf decanthus. Self-seeds like mad, and I'd have to say the one thing you need to be careful with all these plants is once you've got enough, be assiduous about removing the plants before they actually shed their seed, and just keep a few back to make sure that the next generation comes along.
Smyrnium perfoliatum. Interesting. What a fabulous colour. What an interesting name. Smyrnium. That sounds very exotic. Anyway, but once again, your choice of colour and form and shape is just amazing. Oh, I wish I was there so we could just tease that out a little bit more. But anyway, we've got a whole lifetime of videos to make, but it's so interesting to see how the garden is bursting into its colour and form now in spring, and then we can see what it's doing in summer and autumn, because you've obviously considered really well what each plant does at each part of the year. So that is glorious to see in action.
Well, Matthew, I hope that's convinced you and perhaps some of our viewers that self-seeding plants can be a great asset in the garden. Just manage them correctly and enjoy the beauty that they create.
Thank you, Stephen. I guess the only last point to make is that, of course, allowing self-seeders to self-seed is great value for money. You buy the seeds once and ta-da! Anyway, that's my slightly cheap take on that subject. Of course, wherever you are, you'll need to research what is invasive and what is not, and there are databases all across the world, both in the States and in Britain and in each state in Australia, to determine what plants are invasive. And in Australia, it is very different state to state, so do have a look to see what can and can't work in your specific region. And a quick lockdown shout out to Craig Lidgerwood, Stephen's partner, who is doing all the filming for us. So thank you, Craig. Brilliant camera angles as ever. What could we be doing next week? Who knows, but do subscribe and join us, and we will look forward to seeing you then with another horticultural adventure.